Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Diaries of a Working Couple. I'm Jamie.
And I'm Chris.
And between 1913 and 1915, people would use the U.S. Postal Service to mail their children.
Really?
Yeah. So in 1913, there was this act that was passed that allowed, I guess, I don't want to say people, but it allowed, or it expanded what people were able to mail. And so some people mailed their kids like a mile down the street to grandma's house. But some people mailed their children, I think they said the longest trip that a child took via U.S. Postal Service was from Florida to Virginia. It was like 700 miles.
That's crazy.
Because the mom had the daughter in Florida and she mailed her to her father's house in Virginia.
Ah, the good old days.
Yeah, so I mean,
Did you just look that up on your phone, like right before I started the recording?
No.
Wow, that is so interesting.
Isn't that nuts?
I feel like they should make a documentary.
And
on
it was,
that.
so it was only 2 years worth of time. And at one point, and different cities would get away with different things because of how the postmaster would read how the act, or how they would interpret the act that was passed. But then in 1915, they called it, or they stopped it because, it was...
Because children were dying.
No, it wasn't because children were dying. Because, so, first of all, they did mention, because I know now I would obviously I would never send my child via mail anywhere. However, I was like, that's kind of weird because you're just sending it off with a stranger. So this was back when like people knew their postman.
Yeah, but
Listen.
Okay, so how does one prepare a child for shipment?
You pay for stamps.
But do they just like the child walks into the with the mail carrier and then?
So if it were a child that couldn't walk, they would carry the child and like not throw them in the bag, like physically carry the child. But if the kid could walk, they would just walk with the mail carrier. And they would ride on the mail trains or like the parcel trains.
That's crazy.
Isn't that nuts?
Yeah.
And they stopped it because there was a postmaster in, I think it was Cincinnati. It was either Chicago or Cincinnati. I know it was one of those like big C cities in the Midwest. And they said it couldn't be children couldn't be counted as I can't remember the exact wording, but it was essentially saying that it's a living animal that's not dangerous. And they said children couldn't be considered that, which is why they had to stop shipping them.
Why is a living child dangerous?
It could be dangerous. I'm not saying that they are dangerous, but they could be considered dangerous depending, age and mental status and everything. So.
I'd love to overnight myself to California. Be so funny.
So, yeah, I thought that was very interesting, and it was only a short stint. And once that passed, or once, I think it was August of 1915 when they said, yeah, no, we're not doing this anymore. They would, like, there were people who still tried to mail their kids, and they had to be like, no, sorry. So it was only like almost 3 years, because it started the act was passed January 1st of 1913.
Imagine the amount of abuse that system would take today.
You would mail literally everything.
Yeah, I mean, people would just be mailing their kids places because they don't want to take care of them anymore.
Yep.
Imagine getting a random child delivered by your mailman. That's just weird.
It would be very weird, especially if you didn't know the child.
Yeah. So, anyway, this week both of us have been getting very in depth on some simulator video games.
So we watched this one video on YouTube of these guys just playing this one simulator game, and Chris was like, I think you might like that. So he downloaded it on Switch and he started playing it. He's like, here, give it a shot. And I'm like, no, I'm good. And I wish I would have stayed with the no, I'm good, because I play this game. I'm sorry, I'm very burpy because I'm drinking Coke, so if you hear the burps, I'm sorry.
This is so typical.
I'm sorry.
I think every time that we're going to record,
it still happens when I drink water, though. That's the problem.
I don't know what it is. Maybe you're nervous about recording your voice and you just get all burpy and yawny.
You guys make me nervous.
Oh, boy. Yeah, so I saw this game that some people on YouTube were playing, and it was a house flipping simulator where you have to go into people's houses and clean them and then modify them and add furniture and design things the way you like. And I was like, this seems right up Jamie's alley. I think that,
it was very cool because there are different aspects to the game. The first aspect is you can complete orders. People send you messages saying, hey, I want you to take down this wall. I want you to clean up this mess. I want you to paint my house. And so you can accept those jobs for money, but then as you gain the money, you can also go and buy a house of your own to either renovate for your new office space, because when you start out, your office isn't just a little shack. So it's either office space, or you can flip it, you clean it up, renovate it and everything, and then sell it, and it goes to auction, and you can choose which bid that you want, and you can negotiate and everything. But it's really cool, and I love it because it's a lot less effort and time consuming than renovating a full house or cleaning a whole house. But it's very satisfying to be able to just go in and change the color of whatever room you want, and like watching the mess get cleaned up and everything. I find it very satisfying.
Yeah, I agree. I've been playing Car Mechanic Simulator 2018. And
I didn't know it was a 2018 version. Do they have a newer version?
They have a 2021 or 2020 edition. I don't know if I'm interested in that. I'm trying to stop playing it as much as I have been the last week. But it is super fun. One thing that's really cool is that they allow mods to the game to put in real cars. So, like, I downloaded, 150 real cars. So now they're just kind of mixed into the game. And the game is very similar to the house flipping simulator, to where you have a phone, you keep getting calls about random car jobs, and those jobs are randomly generated jobs. So they use some of the mod cars too. I'll get a job for doing brakes on a BMW M3, and then comes into the shop, you do all the brakes, and you gotta undo all the bolts and pull the parts off, go on a computer, order new parts, and then put them back on. And then eventually, as you progress through the game, you can, go to auctions, buy cars of your own, modify them in whatever way. You could build up new engines, do engine swaps. You can go drive those at a track. So yeah, it's super fun. I don't know if the 2021 version is as moddable as the 2018 version, so that's why I don't even want to look at that. Plus, it probably costs money, and I already got the 2018 version, and I'm satisfied with that. So why move to a new one?
Have you thought about getting a Cavalier to mod?
No.
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 You had enough of that project car?
They don't put those types of vehicles in as mods. Usually they're popular sports cars and stuff like that.
Fancy stuff.
Yeah. But this game is all on your computer Like it's only single player. There's no online mode or anything. So recently, I was looking to progress a little faster in the game than you're supposed to. So I found that I could just modify the config file to add a little bit of XP to my little bit of experience points to my profile. And then I boosted myself up into the part of the game that I'm more interested in playing right now.
Yeah, Chris has a habit. It's a bad habit that he's developed as a software engineer. Well, he developed it before he became a software engineer. But he has this very bad habit of modifying games to cheat.
It's just like I was this game, you have to do so many jobs to get to the further part of the game where like you get a lot more options and fun things to do. And I understand that like if I was younger and had a lot more time to put into the game, then like I would be okay with doing all that, but since I have minimal time and I want to experience that stuff, I just kind of get past it. And
Do do you think your current knowledge about cars is what's making this initial part boring?
no, it's just like the same thing over and over and over again. There's only so many problems that you can run into in this game, but it does get pretty in depth. But I would say 60% of the jobs, it's just like, oh, the brakes on my car don't work. And then you bring the car into the garage, you put it on the test path, which is just like a tester for the brakes and stuff like that. Then it helps you identify what's wrong. You pull all the parts off, buy them, put the new parts on, send the car away. But then, like, you might have to do 15 of those very, very similar tasks in a row until you get something new or like upgrade levels to get, more in depth stuff. So it was starting to get a little dry. Gave myself a little tweak, a little boost, and I'm back into the interesting stuff now.
So this is kind of a good segue into what we wanted to talk about today. We were going to talk about what we wanted to be when we grow up, like when we were kids, all that kind of stuff. And when we had mentioned this before, Chris had talked about how he's always wanted to do computer science. And there's a story from when he was a child and his grandfather watched him cheat in a computer basketball game so he would always win.
Yeah, I like found a way to modify the game so that I could press a key or something, and every player on the court except for mine would fall over. Was what I don't remember exactly, but this is what my mom was telling me. But yeah, I didn't know I wanted to go specifically into computer science when I was growing up. I knew I wanted to be in the technology field.
And that's mostly just because he can edit games, so he always wins.
Yeah. So anyway, I think that this is like a common struggle for people growing up, though, is there's a lot of people that get to the point where they're going to go to college and they don't even know what they're going to go for. And I think that's kind of like, I wouldn't say that's the majority of people, but maybe like a 50-50. Some people know exactly what they want to do. Some people know what realm. And then like other people just have no idea what they want to do.
I feel like it is vaguely common to not know what you want to do. I feel like most people I talk to didn't know exactly what they wanted to do going into college. I feel like they were all kind of in limbo, whether it was what they wanted to do in general or they had a general gist of, oh, I want to be able to work in biology, but I don't know what I want to do with this degree kind of thing. But I feel like most people don't have that one track mind where this is what I want to do, this is what I'm going to do, and I still enjoy doing it after I've gone through all the classes and everything. I still like what I do.
And I know a lot of people that while in school, they realize, mid-degree that this is not what I want to do, and then they have to go and switch tracks to either a different field within their study or they switch totally different studies. So anyway, Jamie and I had very different experiences with this. So we could just talk about our experience. I think yours
Mine's
is
very convoluted. Literally from the time I was a child growing up, I wanted to do everything and anything, and so I
yeah.
know
So do you want me to start or do you want to start? Because mine is very short. Yours is a little more convoluted.
it doesn't matter to me.
Okay. I will go first because mine was pretty simple. So as a kid, my mom could not get me off the computer. I always was doing things like modifying games or, um, playing video games on the computer. When I started to get around probably high elementary school to middle school, I used to start fooling around with simple coding concepts, like things like HTML, like simple websites and stuff like that.
Question.
Yeah.
When you were in elementary school, did you have a computer class that you went to just to like learn how to type and learn how to code?
So we had a computer class which went over typing, which I'm terrible at. I still am a like look and type person. I don't follow any normal keyboard strategy or
Etiquette.
etiquette. Yeah. I mainly type with my two index fingers, maybe middle fingers, and then my thumbs for space. I tried improving at one point to type without looking at the keyboard or stuff like that, and it just doesn't work for me.
That's so crazy.
Isn't
to
it
me.
wild? Because I literally type all day.
That blows my mind. Well, that's even how my mom is. And she types all day. Most of her work is on the computer now.
I would say that a lot of the time I don't have to look at the keyboard, but it's not like, I have my fingers lined up on the specific keys and moving them up and down to hit keys or whatever. Like my hands just fly around the keyboard and they happen to hit the right keys, but it is just chaos down there. That's why, you don't look. You just look at the screen. My hands are flailing. Things are coming up on the screen. They look right.
That's so interesting.
And then like the other part of the computer classes were things like Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, which like they had like basic versions of it though, like where you would make a spreadsheet and then you want to add everything in this column. How do you do that? And it used the same, I would say, syntax or whatever you want to call for like as Excel, but it was in like a dumb user interface that like a child could understand.
So, 2 questions. First one is that class went over typing and using basic computer programs. Did they go over HTML with you, or was that something you tried to learn on your own?
No, that's something I would do on my own.
Follow up to that, how do you teach yourself HTML? Do you just no? Because I was going to ask if you just read books on it, but I know you wouldn't do that.
I don't read books on it, but the internet, has all these things. Like in my parents' day, you would have to learn everything from a book. And, I think the job of a software engineer now is getting easier because most of us have to solve a lot of problems on our daily tasks that other people have solved, so you can look them up online and you can see how other people have solved it for simple things. But really the main thing that all of us do is combine all these simple things to do really complex things. So anyway, when I was a kid and old enough to try and attempt to write any type of code, the internet existed. You could look up tutorials and stuff and figure it out from there. Like I used to write simple little things where you would have like a text box and a button, and it might add to whatever value you put in or whatever. But I was like, I'm the biggest hacker ever because I can do this. But yeah, it was something that definitely piqued my interest when I was middle school age.
Second question for you.
I think you already asked a second question, so this is probably your
No,
third.
no, that was a follow up. That was part A and part B to question one.
Okay. Well, if you were a teacher and structured a test that way, that's the type of test that pisses me off when they're only like,
So
oh, it's only a 5-question test, but then,
it's like part A through F.
yeah, seriously. I hate
No.
that.
So I don't want to say it was like that. So it was more of like a, did you learn this in class? If yes, please explain. If no, please explain. It was more like that, one of those kind of questions.
It's okay. I'm just messing with you.
Anyway, question number 2. Was this
3.
was this computer class a weekly class that you went to? Was it a daily thing? Was it once a month? Was it something extracurricular? Being that I went to a private school, we had what we called specials. So every Monday we had gym, every Tuesday we had art, every Wednesday we had music. And there were 5 specials that we would do, and it would be built into our curriculum just like any other class. And so we learned how to type, we did Math Blaster, we learned PowerPoint. That's where
I feel like I remember Math Blaster.
Oh, I loved Math Blaster. Anyway, but they taught us HTML in that class. But we also went to that class once a week from kindergarten or first grade all the way up through 8th grade.
Weird. Have you built a website in your day?
Way back when, you know what I saved it on?
Huh.
A not floppy disk.
Nice.
Yeah, that little save icon.
Yeah?
That's what we had. We all had our own little floppy disk and had our name on it. And every week when we would go into computer class, we'd go to the box for our homeroom and we'd all go get
I feel like I did that
our
too.
floppy disk and we'd put it in, and that's how we learned HTML. Was I any good at it? I can't remember. I remember everything I wanted to be was I wanted to color cyan, that really like bright blue. Because
yeah, which is just terrible. But yeah,
I like the color.
It is a pretty color.
But that's vaguely all I remember.
I don't remember. To answer your question, I don't remember if we definitely didn't have to take it every day. It was definitely like a once or twice a week thing. I don't actually remember anything more than that.
That's okay.
I do remember the floppy disk, not floppy disk scenario, though. I feel like we did the same thing where they kept a, organizer of all of our floppy disks, and we would grab those when we came in. But I do remember in high school was the years of the USB drives, the first ones.
Yes.
Like the 32 megabyte ones.
I do remember.
32 megabytes might have been big too back then.
I think it was.
Yeah. But I remember I used to have, USB drives for papers and stuff in high school.
Yep. I definitely remember the USB drives because I'd always get the ones that looked like animals because they made me happy. They were so cute. I had a turtle and a piggy, and I think I had a fish. I think I had one more, but I can't remember what it was. For some reason, I want to say it was a dolphin, but I don't think it was a dolphin.
Oh, just to update, Jamie has not received any more 3D printed lizards.
I have not.
But I did open that glass purple pack of filament.
You
that
did.
would be cool, like a transparent looking one.
I think Dewey needs a friend.
Yeah, okay. I'll add that to the list.
Were you looking at Dewey behind my shoulder?
Yeah. Well, you brought up animals, and then I saw the little tail poking out. So, yeah, through middle school, I guess we had these computer classes. I don't think that really sparked my interest anymore for computers because it was so boring. Like, I was one of those kids that were in that class, and I just thought it was super easy.
Okay.
And I probably at the time thought it was way below me. Like, I was just like, this is so easy. I'm bored. Give me something fun to do.
It seemed basic to you.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So then moving into high school, I was very lucky. My high school has a awesome engineering program, which I don't think computer science at the time was considered part of their engineering academy, but now it is because I've been talking to one of the teachers there, and he's the head of the engineering academy, and he also used to teach computer science at the school. So I believe they're one and the same now.
I'll have to ask Jake. So I know my high school they have an engineering program. They did not have it when I was going through school. I think they maybe started it the year Jake started, or maybe the year before Jake started. But I am thinking about it now, and again, it didn't start while I was there, but from what I can tell, I don't believe it included computer science. But I could be wrong because it started after my time.
Yeah, so my first year in high school, I think I took computer programming 1, and that is what really got my interest in the computer science route. I knew I wanted to do computer programming at that point. Like, I thought it would be cool. And then after taking that class, it made me want to pursue it further. So then I took computer programming 2 the next year, and then the year after that I took AP computer science.
2 things.
Yeah.
One's a comment. I didn't know they had AP computer science.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I got college credit for that class.
Did you actually use that college credit?
Actually, I didn't get college credit for that class. I lied. I didn't take the AP exam because I was too lazy. Yep, typical. That's like so me.
Was that your junior year, though?
That was my junior year, but I still could have got it.
I know you could have gotten it, but I feel like as a junior, you're not as worried about getting those college credits, if you're only doing APs in certain subjects. If you're like full on AP classes and you're a very driven student where you want to push yourself and continue to push yourself, I feel like you take all the APs in your junior and senior year. But
I think that if I were to take an AP class in high school to try and avoid stuff in college, it would be, for me personally, trying to avoid subjects like English or history or something like that. I took an engineering class my senior year of high school, which was Principles of Engineering, I think, and I got a credit that I could apply to my degree at Drexel. And it honestly didn't actually do much for me. I think it was literally 1 credit, so I had to take enough. I had to take the same amount of courses anyway to graduate. That class, though, I learned more than I did at Drexel in their basic engineering courses.
my second question was, what in computer programming 1 or intro to whatever that first class was, what piqued your interest in that class? Do you remember if there was any specific subject or anything, or if you just thought it was generally really cool?
Not really. I think the class was Java based. I think. Yeah, thinking back to those days, it was Java. And I think just like actually writing blips of software that did something more than like the basic stuff that I did when I was, probably in middle school, messing around with HTML, which that piqued my interest, made me feel like a coder. And then to come into a class and actually have the ability to do more than what I already did, like, just made me feel like I was growing like the skills even more and more. And then like, you start to see one of like the most fun things about, I don't know if it's the most fun things about computer science, but like you start to learn that, you can start writing little pieces to do smaller things and then combining those to make bigger and bigger things. And like, at the time in high school, when I'm saying bigger things, it was probably like reading a file and printing like the second character on each line or something. But, something stupid like that. But, it just made me feel like I wanted to learn more. I don't know. It was like I came into high school with a hunch that I would like like computer science or like computer programming. And that first class kind of reaffirmed that for me. And then, I took the follow up courses for 2 additional years, had a really good time in those classes. So by the time I was ready to graduate from high school, I already knew what I wanted to study, whether it was computer engineering or computer science. It kind of just depended on which schools I applied to. Some schools only had a computer engineering degree, some had both. I think I stuck with computer science. Um, yeah, I was going to say, I don't even know what I was going to say there because I just don't know. Like computer engineering and computer science, there's not much of a difference. Though I think computer engineering learns a little bit more about the hardware side of things, but that's debatable. I know some computer engineers that probably don't know anything. So, yeah, I don't know. I came out of high school pretty determined to know what I was going to study in college. So that was my experience. It was pretty much started with a hunch
And ran with it.
and learned that I actually wanted to pursue it. Came to the point where I was pretty set on what I wanted to do going into college. And I think college and on, we can separate that onto a different episode.
Last question.
Yeah.
Did you have any jobs growing up that helped solidify your enjoyment in computer science? Was there anything you did where you're like, you got a taste of the computer science, something you hadn't learned in class, and you're like, yeah, I really like this aspect of it?
No.
Okay.
No. Like my first job was camp counselor, no computer science experience. Then, I worked at McDonald's, no computer science experience. And then I worked at McDonald's all the way until I went to college.
Okay.
And then after my first year of college, I came back, worked at Best Buy, and I was just like a mobile sales guy. So
yeah, I was going to say,
nothing really there.
I thought your Best Buy was more retail than actual tech.
Best Buy, though, working there really taught me that I would hate being a salesman, though. Like, I actually gained valuable life experience working there because I knew I would never make it as a salesman.
And that's okay.
Yeah, and I would, highly recommend for anybody that is, in their high school age or people with kids that are, high school, middle school age, if you get a job in the retail space in, sales like that, it's good experience because you'll learn whether...
You learn a lot.
Well, it's public facing, so but most, there's other jobs that are public facing too that you can get at a young age like that. Like McDonald's, you're public facing, but that's like a food service. Sales though, I just had a really poor taste because, everything's driven by numbers for that store. They want you to sell a certain amount of things, whatever. I'm not trying to make a career out of it. I'm already going to college for my career. This one story that, my mom and it always brings up is that I was working at Best Buy selling, pretty much all the latest smartphones, and this older gentleman comes in and he had this flip phone and he's like, it just died. I want to get the same exact thing. This is all I know how to use. And in my ear, I have a headset in, and I hear my manager saying, push a smartphone on him, get all this other stuff, the warranty, the case, everything, which I actually got written up for because I told the manager to chill because I was with a customer. It's for another story. We could talk about job horror stories, but I ended up going to the computer and bringing him the eBay and showing that he could just buy that same exact phone for $3 shipped. And I was like, just go home. I actually sent it to him with my company email at the time. So yeah, I'm not laid out for sales. So computer science, behind the computer, my keyboard fingers, that's where my home is.
Sounds good.
So How about you run us through your experience? Tell
So,
us what young Jamie wanted to do.
young Jamie wanted to do everything. Young Jamie, so growing up, for the longest time, my favorite animal was a monkey. I loved monkeys. Monkeys were my favorite. I would, so growing up, we had two computers in our house. We had a computer that is where our computer is now in my parents' house.
In the family room.
Is it still there? I think it's still there.
They just got him a new one recently.
I can never keep track. I'm not down there enough. We need to go visit Maryland more.
Okay.
But they had one there, and that was hooked up to the internet and everything. And so that's where Dad would check emails. We could play certain video games on that one. And then we had another one that was a really old Gateway. And I know it was Gateway. I think it was Gateway because it had the cow. Do you remember the cow print or no? Like, I'm talking really old.
That sounds familiar.
But it was a white computer. It was like the really big monitor. And my mom had gotten us a bunch of encyclopedias or something. And I would literally take those encyclopedias or the books or whatever, wherever I was getting this information from, and I would sit there at the computer and I would look up a monkey in the encyclopedia, and then I would type out all of that information so I could learn more about the monkey.
So what you're telling me is that you wanted to be either a zookeeper or a vet with data entry.
No, I wanted to be like Jane Goodall. I wanted to go study the monkeys, live with the monkeys. I wanted to teach Coco how to use sign language, communicate. That's all I wanted to do. I wanted to immerse myself
with monkeys. And that's not even your favorite animal now.
It's not. For the record, it's giraffes at this point in time. But I wanted to do that. And then after a while, my mom was talking about, she read a book by Ben Carson. For anyone who doesn't know who Ben Carson is, he is a neurosurgeon out of Johns Hopkins in Baltimore. Or at least he was at the time. I don't know if he still is. But my mom read a book by him and all that kind of stuff. And she told me about how he separated conjoined twins and everything. I thought that was really cool. And I was like, I want to do something like that. And so after the primatologist thing has left my mind, I then decided I wanted to be a doctor. And then as I went through and...
Any type of doctor? Or I guess at the time...
At the time, I wanted to be a doctor. And then as I learned more about it, I was like, I want to be a brain surgeon because that would be really cool. It'd be really helpful to people. I'd really be able to help people. What's even better than helping people? Helping kids. I wanted to be a pediatric neurosurgeon.
That seems extremely terrifying and stressful.
That is why I decided not to go into that, because after saying that's what I want to do, that's what I didn't want to do.
You think your job now is stressful.
I thought, that's what I thought about it. And then I was like, you know what? I would not be able to do surgery, especially anything that's high risk, high stress, because if someone died on my table, I would not be able to live with myself.
It takes a special kind of person.
It does. It absolutely does.
Like that.
There are a lot of positions that whenever I interact with people of that profession, it's awe inducing. It's just baffling. Anyone who works in hospice care, that blows my mind, because it takes a very special person to be there for that. And hats off to anyone who does that, anyone who can be in those high stress situations and really hold their own and be able to keep a level head to actually help people. I knew I was not going to be able to do that. So no pediatric neurosurgeon. But I did really like kids. I babysat a lot growing up, and I loved playing with kids. I loved, helping them finger paint. I used to babysit. I think you met Brooke. Brooke dog sat Riley for our rehearsal dinner right before our
Yeah,
wedding.
maybe.
I don't know if you were there
I
or
met
not,
so many people around the wedding.
but Brooke, I babysat her and her two older brothers. Her oldest brother is Jake's age. And so they had like video games they would play, or they would be like playing pretend or whatever. And then while they were doing that, Brooke never really liked doing that stuff. So I would bring over different, those capsules that you'd throw in water, and after a while in water, they would expand and they would turn into like a foam shape or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I would bring I would go to the dollar store, I'd get a bunch of these, and I'd take them over and let her pick out, do you want to do dinosaurs? Do you want to do farm animals? And we'd let them sit in the water and they'd open up. And sometimes she would get too impatient and just break the capsules open and put the sponge in water so it would absorb. And whatever animal came out, we would finger paint and use them to help like decorate the papers and everything. And I would take them to the park. I nannied for a family for a little bit, and I really enjoyed, being able to be there and help with like the formative years and everything. And I really wanted to work with kids. I was like, I want to be a kindergarten teacher. I want to be a kindergarten teacher so badly. And I wanted to be a kindergarten teacher up through high school, but my dad, that when I was graduating high school, that was right around the time a bunch of high school, like private schools in our area, were shutting down. And my dad was like, you are not going to be able to get a job as a teacher, because with all of these schools closing down, I can't imagine them like just opening schools back up in a couple years and you being able to get a job right out of school.
Though I feel like people that are graduating around our time did have a lot of opportunities to come in as teachers.
I actually know people that struggled.
Really?
That graduated with me in college, because a lot of my friends were education majors. And I know a lot of people, and I don't know if it was just because the school district they were in, but I know a lot of people, it took them 2 to 3 years before they got something other than a sub position. And not even a long-term sub, like you go in, you turn on the movie that the teacher left for the day kind of sub.
Got it. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So and like I said, it could have very well been the school district or the area, because I think they all stayed in roughly the same area.
Wasn't there a money aspect to it too?
There was. So my dad had been saving up for college and for me and my brothers, and he, to help encourage me to find a different major, he also said he wasn't going to help as much pay for college if I decided to go for education.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. I just thought that he suggested strongly that you switch majors or switch to a different profession that makes more money, but I did not know that he said that he would withhold some.
Yeah, so, well, I mean, in the long run, it didn't matter too much, because where I ended up going, I got a full ride anyway. But
because you're so dang smart.
That's me, so smart. But he also said that he thought I would not be able to live the lifestyle I wanted to on a teacher salary, which is also fair.
He was probably right with that.
So that was that, and so I was like, okay, I gotta switch to something else.
Your girl likes Target.
Your girl likes Target and Barnes and Noble. But all right, back on track. No kindergarten teacher, so I had to find something different. And I took, when I took honors chemistry in high school. I loved our teacher. I really enjoyed the passion she had for chemistry, and I liked chemistry in general. That was something that always clicked for me. So I was like, all right, I'll go into chemistry and I'll figure something out. And then as I thought about it, I'm like, well, I really like true crime and all that kind of stuff. So maybe I'll get into forensics. And I took a forensics class in high school, which was really cool because it was very basic, but you learned about blood spatter and you learned about what different textured hair looks like under the microscope and what the cross sections look like and all that kind of stuff, which was really interesting.
Pause. Do you want to shout out any good Crime Junkies podcasts?
Okay, well, Crime Junkie is a podcast.
Oh.
But that one's really good. And my go-to is Morbid. They were Morbid, a true crime podcast, but they have dropped a true crime podcast part, and they are just now Morbid, period, because they do a lot of hauntings. And
is that more recent, though?
Yes.
I feel like when we were discussing like taglines and stuff for our podcast, you brought up the Morbid stuff.
It is a more recent thing that they've taken it off, and they went to a new. This is completely off topic, so if you don't want to listen, skip ahead like 3 minutes.
Oh, we're not talking about this for 3 minutes.
Bet.
Quickly. 10 seconds.
No, stop! You're putting pressure on me. I can't think. They recently switched over, so they were on Morbid Network. They had their own podcast network where they had a bunch of different shows together, but that got absorbed by Wondery. And so when they all switched over to Wondery, that's when they dropped a true crime podcast, and they just went to straight Morbid.
All right, done. But I do have to put a little asterisk here. Continue listening to us, then go check out those.
Yeah, so if you like true crime and you need something to listen to between Mondays when this drops and you binge it automatically as soon as it comes out, because I know you do, you got Crime Junkie, you got Morbid, which was formerly Morbid, a true crime podcast. They are my favorites. If you want something a little spookier, Let's Not Meet is a really good one. I want to note that we are not sponsored by any of these, but they are just really great. Please go listen to them. And then if you need something more uplifting, Beach Too Sandy, Water Too Wet.
That is like my favorite podcast to listen to, especially when we're going to sleep, because I can't take any of these true crime things when we're going to sleep.
Yes.
Nightmares.
Beach Too Sandy, Water Too Wet, a podcast where we read the most 1-star reviews in the most dramatic fashion.
Okay.
That is what their tagline is.
Whoop.
All right.
Let's get back to the real topic.
I think that was 3 minutes. You're welcome. But I really enjoyed my forensics class and everything. So I'm like, okay, I'll do forensics and then I'll I'll do chemistry with a minor in like criminal justice or something, try and get into forensics. So that was my plan going into college. Christmas break, I believe it was my sophomore year. No, I know it was my sophomore year. It was Christmas break of my sophomore year of college. I woke up one day, I want to be a pharmacist. I distinctly remember because it was like 2 days in a row. One day I had a really, really strange dream. It had nothing to do with being a pharmacist at all, but it's still something I can remember very distinctly. And then the next day I woke up and I was like, I'm going to be a pharmacist. I didn't watch a show about a pharmacist. I didn't listen to anything about a pharmacist or pharmacy or anything like that. It was just one of those things that my parents didn't say anything to me about it. It wasn't like they were dropping hints. I just kind of woke up and I was like, I'm going to be a pharmacist.
I think pharmacy and chemistry share some
commonalities. They
right?
are very similar, but it was never something I thought about. It was never something that crossed my mind. So I thought about it for a couple days. And then I brought it up to my parents and I was like, I think I might want to be a pharmacist. And I remember my mom saying, we didn't want to bring it up and say anything to you about it, but your dad and I think you would be a really good pharmacist because, so growing up, we had Frida, and then before Frida, we had Jody. I think it was Jody. Mom, don't yell at me if I'm wrong. But we had a long-standing pharmacist, and we would go to and we knew them. We were on a first name basis with them. We'd come in and she knew who I was. We would talk about everything. She knew when I was going to pharmacy school. She knew kind of everything that was going on with me and my brothers. I knew what was going on with her family. It was a nice personal connection. And so that way, whenever I had any issues or anything happened or I had any questions, I felt comfortable going to them. And it was nice. And I mean, thinking back now, that's like, I know that's what I want to be for someone else, but it wasn't something that was in the forefront of my mind.
That's a kind of a rare thing now to have a small hometowny type feel in a pharmacy. I mean, most retail pharmacies are CVS's or Rite Aids, and all these different places staff
And it's
4 or 5 pharmacists at the same store, so you never know who you're getting.
You don't. And it's different because so my pharmacy growing up was in a Shoppers Food and Pharmacy. It was in our grocery store. Being that it wasn't a large chain like CVS, Rite Aid, Walgreens, Walmart, whatever else you got, they didn't have a rotating staff like we did at the big box chains.
Also, the big box chains are just trying to check boxes for numbers, right? Like they don't. Yes, they're trying to be like the pharmacists themselves are trying to be good to the customers, but from a business perspective, they don't care as long as they're checking the boxes.
Yeah, and it's different, and that's something we can get into later, the differences between big box chain and like the benefits and the downsides and all that kind of stuff. But
we'll do a full episode on pharmacy.
Oh yeah. Oh, I can talk about that for days. But so I was like, I think I'm going to be a pharmacist. And Mom was like, we thought you'd be really good. You'd be kind of like Jody in the community or like Frida in the community. But we didn't want to say anything and feel like we didn't want you to feel like we were pushing this on you. And so that year I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And I don't know how I learned it. I think one of my colleagues, not even a colleague, one of my friends from undergrad mentioned, I was like, yeah, I think I want to do this. And they're like, oh, well, I don't know if you know this, but Jefferson just started like a program with us. So Immaculata and Jefferson did that 3+4, where I do 3 years at undergrad, 4 years in grad school. And that first year in grad school would transfer back as my senior year for credits.
Yeah.
So after my first year of pharmacy school, I could come back to IU and graduate, which I thought was really cool. And it was ink hadn't even dried on the contract. Very new thing. And I was the first one to go through it. So I remember studying for my PCATs and going and taking the exam and waiting to see what my scores were. And I remember because I used to work as a student ambassador. So I was in the student ambassador office. And I think it was on Jake's birthday that I got my acceptance letter from Jefferson. And so I called Mom, then Mom called Jake, and then Jake called me. He's like, wow, way to steal my thunder. And I was like, listen, I'm sorry, bud. But yeah, and I got into pharmacy school and I kind of never looked back. I went in blindly, and even during the interview when they asked me, they're like, oh, why do you want to be a pharmacist? Why do you want to go to pharmacy school here? I was blatantly obvious. Like, I was very forthright with them. I said, I don't know why I want to be a pharmacist, but I woke up 2 years ago or like a year ago with this gut feeling that this is what I need to be doing. And my gut feelings haven't steered me wrong yet. But I enjoy helping people. I enjoy being able to teach people how to do things and be a resource for people. And I feel that's something I'm able to do through pharmacy. And they're like, why do you want to do it here? I said, honestly, because IU has a program, but I like that you guys are in Philly. You're not super far away. I can still be close to my family and be close to my friends and get the education that would benefit me and therefore the community in the future. But I was very obvious with it. And luckily, Dr. Hess, shout out to Dr. Hess, I love her so much. She was the one, she did an open house or like an information session one night that Dad and I went to. Dad drove up and we drove into the city for the information session. And afterwards, he was asking her all these questions, and she was so personable, so easy to talk to, and she was the one who did my interview. So it was nice to have that friendly face because I was shaking, like literally close to tears. I was so nervous.
For what?
The interview.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about the
info session.
The info
no,
session.
No.
It's like, what? Why is the info session so nerve-wracking?
Yes, that too. But I would get that way even when I feel like something is right. I get like super emotional where I can't handle it. Because when I did my overnight at IU, I did my overnight, stayed with the volleyball girls, went through classes and everything. And then I went and met with my advisor. That's what I was going to say, preceptor, but that's not the right word. Advisor. And he was the head of the chemistry department. And he was he still is super chill. I used to see him in Philly sometimes. It was really weird. He'd just be like randomly wandering around when I was at Jefferson. Anyway, but we were sitting there talking and I felt so comfortable with everything. And I was like, this is where I'm going to be. And I remember I got like short of breath and I got filled up and I was like, don't cry in front of this man. He's going to think you're absolutely nuts. But it's like, it just felt right. So
that's interesting. I don't think I've ever felt that type of emotion when things feel right. I do shake a lot, though, if I have to stand up or present to many people.
And that's the thing. It wasn't even like I was presenting or anything. It just...
Or like an interview. I feel like I get nervous then, too.
And like, that's totally normal. But this was like a full body, like, clamming up kind of difficulty. And it's hard to explain, especially because, like, I was, like, getting ready to cry, and I don't cry. Like, it takes a lot to make me cry. I'm not a very emotional person in terms of crying. Like, I will yell, I will scream, I will get angry, I will be happy. I don't cry.
Yeah.
So it was very weird for me that on a random Tuesday, I'm sitting in this stranger's office ready to cry because I know this is the college I want to go to. But... and that's the kind of feeling I got when I was like doing everything for Jefferson. And that's how I got into pharmacy. And I know it was long and very convoluted. And it went from monkeys to a child's brain surgery to
So do
pharmacy.
You have any regrets through your path of, I guess, your career journey or what you're going to do for the rest of your life journey?
I don't. The only regret I have is that when I was trying to decide if I wanted to do pharmacy or not, I was asking the opinions of a lot of people that are no longer around.
Yeah, like, you got to do what's right for you or what you think is the right path.
Yeah, and that's my only regret. And because I remember sitting down with some of my friends and my boyfriend at the time, and I was like, I think I want to do this, but I don't know if I want to do this. Like, kind of like help me out, like help talk me through it. And like looking back, I'm like, I don't talk to any of these people anymore.
And that was such a pivotal moment in your life, and you were taking opinions and stuff from people that
were fleeting.
Yeah, that are gone. I mean, well, not physically gone, but like, yeah, they're not friends anymore.
I'm not in contact. And I think that's the only regret. I should have been able to stand stronger in my convictions of what I knew I wanted and what I felt I wanted versus what other people's opinions would have been if I made either decision.
Yeah.
I think that is my only regret. But I love being a pharmacist. I love doing what I do. There were definitely times in pharmacy school where I was like, oh, I hate this. And there were definitely parts in pharmacy school where I was like, I love this. I want to do this forever. So, and again, that's something I could talk about for days.
The
but
part I hated most about you doing pharmacy school was me having to try and pronounce the drugs on your flashcards.
I think that was my favorite part, though.
It was terrible.
You
I don't
can't,
know. I
you
think
can't
that you
say a Pixaban or a Varoxaban or...
I think that you should get a degree just for being able to speak the names that are on the card.
The worst part is there's no set way to say the drug name. Because, so, for example, this was going to be one of my fun facts at one point, and I swear this will be the last rambling thing I do, I promise. But you know the drug Plavix. It's a blood thinner.
Sure.
And it works on platelets.
I don't actually know if...
Some people have heard of the brand name Plavix. It's also known as clopidogrel. It's what the general's on that makes him very sick.
I didn't even know that. I didn't even know he was on medication.
I swear. We go to this party, we talk to his aunt and uncle, and they talk about their cat, and he doesn't even listen. Absurd.
I don't think I was there when you guys were talking about that.
I don't know. I know Mike said something about it, but then I know I talked more about it with Delphina. But
People come up to you and talk to you about medications that they're on or that their pets are on because you're a pharmacist.
You're right. But I know, so
what is the interesting fact?
So the interesting fact, and I think it's interesting, you probably are going to be like, wow, this is stupid. But it works on platelets to prevent clotting. So originally it was supposed to be called Plavix. Like it was supposed to be pronounced Plavix because it sounds like platelet. That's how it works. That's how we know what it does. A lot of drugs, at least brand names, are named either after people, where it was discovered, or how it works when it comes to like brand names. Oh, there's another one.
Was that the interesting fact?
No, but because okay, sorry. There was another drug that like Norco or Percocet. I think it's Percocet because it's oxycodone, so it's Perco, and then set is from acetaminophen. It's a merge of the names, but because no one wants to say oxycodone acetaminophen, you shove it all together into the brand name Percocet. Codone set. Anyway, Plavix. It was originally supposed to be announced Plavix because it works on the platelets. However, because it's way more difficult to say Plavix, it doesn't roll off the tongue as well. When they started like advertising and everything, everyone kept calling it Plavix, so that's why now everyone calls it Plavix instead of Plavix. And you just kind of got to know that it works on the platelets instead of being able to infer it from the name. I know it's not really interesting, but I find it interesting. This has been your Drug Corner with Jamie the Pharmacist.
Wow, is all I have to say.
I know.
Me and our whole audience of 17 Spotify listeners and 15 Apple Podcast listeners.
I get it. All 4 of our regular listeners really lost about 30 seconds of their life.
All of us were so prepared for this crazy fact. Anyway.
You know what, Lucia, can you write in and tell me that you found this interesting? Because I feel like whenever I talk about drug things, you find me interesting. Please validate me.
They are interesting, but the lead up just really... It built up to just like a plateau instead of like a, anyway. I'm
sorry, okay?
Anyway.
I feel like I'm starting to learn how Jason tells stories.
Pretty much. That was a Jason story, if you want to.
Oh, all right. I think that.
But you're the one who even called your story the Jason story.
I know. I
did not point it out. Kind of. I hinted towards it.
You're like, you said it, not me. But I think that's a good place to wrap this up.
Yeah, I think, we covered
off.
both of our journeys. They were both very different, but we're both very happy, with where we ended up. So, if you or somebody is going through that debate in their head of what they're going to do later in their life, everything's going to work out.
Everything will work out, and one of my high school teachers told me that you want to make sure you enjoy what you do. He told us a story about how whenever he goes out with his friends, they never want to talk about what they're doing for work. They always want to talk about what he does because he loves his job as a high school teacher, and he can talk about it for hours. And when he asks them, they're like, I hate my job. I like, yeah, it pays good money, but it really sucks. And so they never want to talk about it. So I know it's very cliche. Like, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
I wouldn't say I'm quite there, but I do enjoy what I do on a general basis. Sometimes I hit stretches where I'm doing something that's tedious that like annoys me, but
That's
for the most part I enjoy it. But
and
some people are content with working a job just to make money so that they can have fun. But
and
you
that's
know,
totally
that's
fine.
totally up to the person.
But I am a very strong advocate of, you have to at least enjoy what you do. You don't have to love it 100% of the time, but doing the part of the job that you love will help balance out the tough times where it's more tedious or more difficult.
Yeah.
And I will always stand by the fact of, you have to at least generally like what you do.
All right. So we're going to wrap this up here. Unfortunately, at this recording, we didn't have any recipes or cocktails, so I just drank a Jack and Coke for the most part. But if you do have any, food recipes or cocktail recipes that you want to share with us, please do that at diariesofAworkingcouple@gmail.com or direct message us on Instagram at diariesofAworkingcouple. And, go there and follow us if you haven't.
Like and subscribe. Isn't that what the kids are saying nowadays?
They are, but we're not on YouTube.
Yeah, I know. So like and follow.
But we could be on YouTube.
We're getting there. TBD. We'll have to see if Chris's phone is going to factory reset. So
I haven't decided if it's worth our time yet. We'll see. I mean, this is fun and all. And if we see an opportunity to where putting things on YouTube would grow any sort of audience, then we'll do that. But for right now, boom, you're getting it on Spotify and Apple and Google, technically, for like the one person that listens on there, Lucia.
I really don't think she does. Anyway.
You're the one who told me she does. Anyway. We're way off topic.
I know, we're way off topic. So, follow Instagram at Diaries of a Working Couple. Slide into our DMs with any recipes you got. Food, cocktails, or otherwise. I don't know what other recipes you got, but send them our way. Or send them to our Gmail account, diariesofworkingcouple@gmail.com. And we'll catch you guys next time. Hopefully, Dewey will have a friend by then.
Probably not.
Oh, poor Dewey.
All right. See you later.
Bye, guys.